Hey y'all, Mariacom here again. Thanks for being here to listen to me ramble about stuff. It has been a day today. The lighting is terrible right now because I don't know, my phone keeps saying it's raining, and I'm like, nope, it's not. It is cloudy, and we have a tornado warning until 11 p.m., so that's fun. That doesn't really mean a lot to me, I'll be honest. Maybe it should mean something to me, but it doesn't. Where I live and where I grew up, it, doesn't mean a whole lot. Most of the time, a tornado warning doesn't actually result in anything. I also live in a city, and big storms usually, not always, usually go around the city. So I'm not too worried. We did have, it was either last year or the year before, in my state, we did have a pretty bad tornado year. We had some very bad tornadoes that hit some very small towns, and that was not great. So, woohoo. But anyway, so, like, whenever there's a tornado warning, it doesn't matter to me, really. It never really meant anything when I was a kid growing up. Again, that's not to say that I, don't take it seriously. It just, I give it the correct level of concern. And that is, okay, I know what I need to do if the tornado sirens actually go off, but what's the likelihood of them going off? Not very good. Not very high. Anyway, it's not what I should be talking about, because I'm supposed to be doing a Pride Month video. So, I am not sure if y'all have important primaries happening in your area, primary elections, but primary day is next week, Tuesday. That sounds right. I hope that's correct. That sounds right. Anyway, we have early in-person voting in the city I live in, so it's a fun thing, and I went and did that today. And y'all might be saying, I thought you just said you were going to do a Pride Month video, and I am. It is fitting that the primaries happen during Pride Month, because voting is important if you care about Pride. Voting, when I was younger, I thought all that mattered was the presidential election and, voting for congresspeople and all of that, because realistically, maybe that is all that mattered now when I was younger. I don't know. I was a kid, and, voting didn't matter to me because I couldn't do it. So when I was learning about it, I was just like, whatever, who cares? I'll get there eventually, and then I'll care more. Now that I'm an adult and can vote, I realize that voting for everything is important. And I didn't used to do research into, who I should vote for local things and stuff like that. I live in a state that's kind of weird. We're a very red state, but for quite a while we had Democratic representation. What I mean by that is, for some reason, we always voted for Democrats as a state, even though we're a very red state. Those were the days. We had Democrats representing us in Congress, in the Senate and the House, at the federal level, even though we're a red state. It was back in a time where, I say back in a time where, there are people now in Congress who don't always, vote party line, but they are few and far between. Back then, there were more people who didn't just vote party line. Back then, our representatives and senators who were Democrats often voted with the Republicans. Not every time. They did also still, they were Democrats, they were progressive in some ways, but they voted with Republicans enough that people in my red state kept voting for them, so there was that. I didn't used to think that would matter as much at the local level either, but when I was younger, I didn't think parties mattered at all, really. I didn't care. Now, I realize it definitely does matter. It matters a lot. And, for example, who runs for mayor. We have a mayoral race happening in my city right now. And who runs for mayor is supposed to be nonpartisan, but, I mean, you can tell what people's leanings are based on their platform. And that matters. You want to vote for someone who, has a history of doing things that are actually going to help the city you live in. Same at the state level. You want to vote for people at the state level who are going to represent your state appropriately, are going to represent your district, your city, your whatever appropriately. And when I say appropriately, I mean in a way that's actually going to help your area. You want to vote for things that are going to help you and the people you care about. And another thing is, I don't know how often there are ballot measures for other folks on primary election ballots and things like that, but we had a couple of election ballot measures on this ballot as well. One of them was about extending an additional sales tax, for example, just for our city. And I'm just like, no, you haven't been using that well. Why would I want to keep paying more money just for you to not use it well? Our city is having a budget crisis right now, and I don't want to keep giving you more money for you to not use it properly. Why would I do that? So, no, I'm going to vote against that. Anyway, paying attention to all of those things is important, and how does this relate to pride? Because you want to vote for people who are going to support the LGBTQ plus community, unless you're a terrible person and you hate people who are queer. You're weird and you shouldn't be here. Why are you here? Stop listening to me if you hate me. But, I mean, unless you're hate watching me, I guess I can't say no to views. So, I'm kidding. I don't want you to watch me if you hate queer people. Go away. Okay, are they gone? Good. So if you support queer people, you want to vote for you want to vote for candidates and measures and things like that are going to help queer people. I think it's especially important right now where I live, because there are several people on the primary ballot who are very supportive of queer folks, and I want them to move forward. I want them to get on the general election ballot. I want them to represent us, basically. So, that would be great. Yeah. Voting is important, and I don't know. I had nothing queer to talk about today, so I thought I would talk about voting, since I went and voted early. I would show you my sticker for voting, but it is very state specific, so I would dox which state I live in if I showed it to you. Maybe you wouldn't know. That's very possible. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you did, go out and vote in your primary election if you are able to, if you are of age and you have the time and a way to get to a polling place. Please do that. It is important. The more of us that vote, the more we are doing our civic duty, and the more we are making our voices heard. We don't want another debacle like the 2024 election. I'm assuming any of you who are listening agree with me politically. Hopefully you do. I don't know. If you don't, at least you listened. Thanks for that. I still think your vote matters, even if you disagree with me politically. Because it does. Because we all deserve a vote. So, yeah. Go do that. It's important. Get a cool sticker that says you voted. It's pretty cool. And yeah, like I said, Primary election day is next week Tuesday, unless it's different. It is different in some places. I do know that. Here it is next week Tuesday. I shouldn't keep saying it's the same everywhere. I know some places have already had their primaries, so hopefully you voted if you live in one of those places. Ours is next week Tuesday, so, but we have early voting going on right now because I live in a place where that's possible. Hooray! Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. Thanks for listening, and I will try and chat at you again tomorrow. Bye.